Before we start, I would be curious to know how many of you are from institutions that subscribe to the MLA International Bibliography? Okay. Not all of you. Okay, great. And then how many of you regularly use or guide researchers to use the MLA thesaurus embedded within the bibliography? Okay, great. We'll talk a lot about it, so this will be helpful. And what about the directory of periodicals, which sits adjacent to the bibliography? Great, okay, we're not going to waste your time. This is great. Hi, I'm Angela Gibson for the Modern Language Association, and we're going to talk about innovating research instruction in the bibliography within the context of this new era we live in, the AI era. Hi there, welcome. So I'm going to talk first a bit about some of the features of the bibliography, its core features, and then I'm going to do a deep dive into the MLA thesaurus and the MLA directory periodicals, which are two databases that essentially feed the bibliography. We'll talk very briefly about some of what we know about students' research practices when it comes to AI tools, external to library databases like our friend ChatGPT. And then we'll talk about some resources baked into the EBSCO platform or optionally the EBSCO platform that are AI-based tools, as well as the many resources, in fact, the MLA is creating both for AI specifically in terms of AI literacy and also research, foundational research skills. All right. So briefly as an overview, the MLA IB has over 1,100 active full-text journals and magazines in it, citations to more than 6,000 actively indexed journals and book series, over 3 million bibliographic citations from late 19th century to the present, and truly international coverage. We index scholarly publications in more than 70 different languages. And as I mentioned, feeding this rich database is the MLA thesaurus and the MLA directory of periodicals. And of note, a few years ago, we also started indexing book chapters. We do this optionally for the book, but we heard from scholars that they really wanted us to do that, and that's been a successful addition to the resource. All right, and the reason we can create this rich resource is because of these people. These are the staff members who create the MLA International Bibliography. Many of them are trained scholars, all the indexers are trained scholars in their fields. All of them know more than one language. The list of languages that these are experts in is staggering. We also have staff members who have information library science degrees that help create our thesaurus, as well as product vendors that help us on the tech side of things. So thank you to them. I'd just like to point them out. All right, so I'm going to begin to speak a little bit about the MLA thesaurus that I mentioned. So we all know Boolean search is a corner of the realm. It's targeted, it's efficient. You can apply post-search filters based on subject, source, language. We're not going to dispute that, but I'm going to now sing the song of the thesaurus. Here we have an example from the name thesaurus. So Eileen Chang was found using Chinese characters, as you can see, and the display lists variants of the name, as well as national literature and the literary time period under which she's classified. So one search within the thesaurus can yield a wealth of information. You can go different places within the bibliography based on that. Here's another example. This is the Browse Works thesaurus. So I've searched Hunger Games. So the results show the film series, the trilogy of novels, and each novel within that trilogy. So I'm going to click on trilogy, and I get the listing for each novel. And I also get the character Katniss as a related term. So users can basically explode the trilogy term to find publications for all 3 novels without doing separate searches. So knowledge about how to use the thesaurus can make your search within the bibliography even more efficient. All right, so here's another example. You can also use the taxonomy of subject terms within the MLA thesaurus to explore lines of inquiry. Here we're looking at an entry for literary theory and criticism. We can view a see also note with a broader term, theory, and more granular types of literary theories. So here we've done a combination search for eco-criticism, a particular kind of theory, and the romantic literary time period. Right, so that's just an overview of the thesaurus in case you don't know as much about it. We have tutorials, which I'll talk about later, that are teaching more about how to use it. So that gentleman take a picture. Great. All right, on to the directory of periodicals. So you can search by subject within the directory of periodicals. So this result shows journals that focus on romanticism. So if you click that first example, the Wordsworth Circle, that's a journal. you'll see a bunch of information about the journal. This isn't all you'll see. This is just one screen. You'll see the subject covered, its peer review status, submission statistics, editorial board, and you can use this also as a journal finding tool. If you have authors who want to look for their publication, this can help them achieve that. All right, moving on. AI. So newsflash, students are using AI to do the research. They're using tools like ChatGPT on the open web. 2025 Pew Research study showed that over 50% of students think LLMs are an acceptable research tool. We know this, but there's a stat to prove it. Don't take it from me. You know many of the problems with it. Won't argue about them. Hallucination is one. You may not like that term, but make stuff up, right? There's a lack of consistent and accurate citation within LLMs, even when it does link to a source. You can't always trust the link. One example that we published on the MLA Style Center, we Googled MLA scare quotes, MLA style scare quotes. And one of the examples was a summary about scare quotes in MLA style, but it was just positive. It was an example of when not to use them, which you wouldn't have known was click through to the source. So still, even when we're researching within an LLM, you've got to click through to the source to figure out what it's actually telling you. They're trained on a relatively narrow set of linguistic and cultural material. One example that drove this home for me, I was at an AI conference in the spring, and there was a researcher from Case Western working on an NSF-funded tool that allows you to look under the hood at the LLM to the extent possible. So they put in a query in Mandarin. The output was in Mandarin, but the tool was processing in English language on English language resources, right? So, and something else, this last point was mentioned by a member of our working group on scholarly research, which I'll talk about in a moment. And they said LLMs have no access to facts, only raw training data. Now, of course, they do have access to facts, but they also have access to things that aren't facts. And they don't always know how to parse the two, right? So that's a danger to be aware. But I thought that was a really stark way of putting it. It drove that home to me. And we've all heard about the pizza and Flamingo and all that, but still. All right, so some things we're cooking up at the MLA to help with AI literacy. You may or may not know we have the MLA Guide to Digital Literacy. It's in its 2nd edition. In the spring, we're launching the 3rd edition that will be inclusive of AI. We have a new chapter on AI guidance. Woven throughout the book is guidance on AI. Ellen Carrillo, the author, has also created student exercises on using Gen AI, as well as a lesson plan that students can use to reflect on the benefits and limitations of Gen AI to support their reading practices. Now, this is available as a book to purchase, but it's also included on the MLA Handbook Plus subscription. That's our subscription resource for the MLA Handbook and MLA Guide series, of which this is a part, is included within that subscription. Now, Ellen recently did an interview on AI literacy at the Style Center at style.mla.org with a co-author of our research guide, Elizabeth Brookbank. And she talked about when we're working with students to develop AI literacy, particularly around research skills. And she finds it helpful for them to learn to differentiate among Gen AI tools. Some are good at some things, less good at other things. They fail in some cases at a variety of things. To understand the sources and library databases like the MLA IB have been vetted as credible. Both Elizabeth Brookbank and Ellen Carrillo mentioned that when students understand that there are efficiencies built into the library databases, they tend to want to use them more. So I mentioned that that way to use the thesaurus to get more easily at their output one. You can also look for peer-reviewed resources in the library database, as I showed you within the source. Nope. And she invites students to focus on process, not output, which I think that exploding tool within the thesaurus I had mentioned, you can go down rabbit holes within the database itself. And then, of course, she talks about helping them identify research topics that they care about. If you want to learn about something, you're less likely to use your quiz. If you want to read that in your review, you can access it at the URL on the slide. So a couple of tools that EBSCO has made available on the platform to support AI use is AI Insights. This is a Gen AI tool. It offers concise summaries of 2 to 5 key points for each document. It's available within the full text resource. And they find that it reduces the time that users spend searching for relevant results. They use a RAG model to reduce hallucinations. And importantly, EBSCO subject matter experts also review samples of the AI Insights output for bias, tone, and accuracy. And At the bottom in a footnote is what I find really interesting, is that use of AI features generates twice as much user engagement compared to non-AI active users and 4 times as much engagement compared to all users. So in other words, for students who really do want that, what Google engineer would call frictionless interaction of researching within ChatGPT, getting garbage results in many cases, this feels more like something they would expect in that environment and more likely to use it. So it's a way to encourage students potentially to use library research databases where they're going to get peer-reviewed material and human-vetted resources. And the other platform-wide AI resource that EBSCO's developed is natural language search. So this is an opt-in feature that works within the full-text resource. It allows users to query using everyday language rather than Boolean operators. Of course, we all know Boolean operators are the coin of the realm, but there's also a high bar to learning how to use the database that way. To be frank, when I was working on my dissertation, I don't know that I was using the operators in the correct way. I got it done, but nonetheless. So this could be another powerful tool to help students, to encourage students to use library databases rather than LLMs on the open web. All right, something new we're launching is a video series on teaching MLA International Bibliography. These are going to be short videos showing how faculty use the MLA IB with full text to build students' research confidence and deep engagement in language and literature. We've launched our first one. You get it, the QR code there. It's called the Scholarly Conversation Project, and it's done by Angie Eklund, who's in our resource staff. She has a library science degree. She taught for many years at Hunter College, and she's the kind of pilot in this program. We have a few more that are in development, and then we're going to begin acquiring from instructors more broadly. So we hope to build that resource out. Wait for QR codes. We're taking snapshots. Got it? Oh, we'll get it there. Okay. So Angie goes into detail about having students gain familiarity with the source of scholarly conversation and tracing trends over time, gaining active experience working with one journal in chronological order, accessing publications via faceted search, and exploring the significance of a journal as a community of practice. Asking why does it matter which journal an article was published in, or why include journal titles and citations? So in this world where we have aggregators, website, just articles are on a website to them, understanding the vein of, the aegis of that content is important still for now. So it continues that way. Another resource I want to direct you to is the MLA Guide to Digital Literacy. This was created by the MLA 4C Task Force on Writing and AI. And the points detailed here, which tell students that they learn to become AI literate when they've developed a basic understanding of Gen AI, when they understand their school's policies for ethical use of AI. And I know that this is a fraught issue because a lot of research is coming out saying that students are confused. One econ professor might allow a certain thing, and an English professor different, might have different policies at the department level, at the institutional level. It's all over the place. There is some confusion. But simply attempting to understand what your instructor is asking of you. When you know how to prompt AI to get useful outputs, when you can evaluate that output for relevance, usefulness, and accuracy, when you can monitor your own learning, and when you can recognize that Gen AI is not like human communication, and understand its potential harms, both intrinsic, like its hallucination productions, and extrinsic, the environment. So what we're going to do as the next phase is take this guide and drill down into each of these points and create short video explainers with use cases around it. So we're going to build this out. And I'll also say that it's not just students that are using this. We heard from one faculty member that a cross-department policy-making team at our campus was using it. So someone from fire safety, and someone from nursing, and someone from English. So it's a sort of very general guide that helped get you started. All right, so the next iteration of the task force that created that document is the MLA Task Force on AI in Research and Teaching. Their website's there. They're just beginning their work. They are beginning to develop a called Values Enacted Framework for assessing use cases, scholarly research in AI, and how one might approach deciding whether, how, and when to use AI tools in scholarly research. They've also just released a very powerful statement on EdTech, AI agents like Comet.ai from Complexity, these tools that essentially connect to a Canvas-based LMS and allow for the automatic completion of coursework, right? Just before I came into this talk, I saw that there had been a member of the press had contacted us about doing an article about this. Get it at this URL, but I want to read the last paragraph of that statement because I think it's powerful. If we do not act, we risk seeing the development of a fully automated loop with assignments generated by AI with the support of a learning management system. AI-generated content is submitted by an agentic AI on behalf of the student, and AI-driven metrics evaluate the work on behalf of the instructor. And so the statement calls on institutions to leverage the knowledge of faculty members in every department when making decisions about what EdTech to adopt and how to use it. And then it also calls on institutions to work with policymakers and technology companies to ensure that the features of AI that are particularly harmful to learning aren't implemented on campus through LMSs. And in the press statement I just saw in the news article, there's technology pushback on that. Technology companies are pushing back on that. So keep an eye open for this moving. All right. And the last thing I want to let you know about are additional resources we have on the MLA IB. We have a series of tutorial videos. Those are free to use. You can share them. You can modify them. They're available under a CC license. We have a free online course. This offers students a badge when they complete it. And there's 5 lessons in it. So that's our staff members, again, the ones who have library science degrees and are experts in the field helping students learn how to use the bibliography. We have additional tools. We have for information literacy and learning research skills, lesson plans, assignments, and an instructor's guide to integrating the online course into class curriculum. Those are available with the 2 QR codes I've listed there. I'm going to pause when you can get it. All right. And then finally, I would be remiss if I didn't mention our MLA EBSCO Information Literacy Prize. This provides a grant for the development of information literacy courses. The next grant cycle and deadline is in early July. Yep, July 2nd. Great. And for the one person in the room who's not a subscriber, if you want to subscribe, you can do a free trial of this QR code. All right. Any questions for me about all the resources I just